Good morning, Colonels. Today is Wednesday, April the 8th. Hopefully everybody was able to submit the assignment yesterday, the worksheet on marijuana. So thus far we've talked about classifications of drugs. We talked about marijuana. So we can take that off of our little bit of our list. All right, so we don't have to talk about that anymore. Let's get right to stimulants. All right, so stimulants. Okay, legal stimulants. We already talked about caffeine, nicotine, things like that. Prescription ones. If somebody was on ADD, they might be prescribed Ritalin or Adderall, okay? But today we're going to get into illegal drugs. So cocaine and methamphetamines. And again, meth could go as a hallucinogen, but we're going to put it right now as a stimulant. All right, so starting with cocaine. All right, how do most people take cocaine? Typically it is snorting up through the nose. All right, the smokable form of cocaine would be called crack cocaine. It's cheap. Please understand this, guys. All drugs are typically sold by weight, okay? Whether it be grams, ounces, kilos. The more weight it is, the more a drug dealer can profit, okay? More weight, more profit. And oftentimes they will mix it up. So a crack, the smokable form, oftentimes that's mixed with like baking soda or baking powder. To increase the weight. So crack is fairly cheap, but the pure form of cocaine is very expensive. It's a derivative of the coca plant. So most people snort it. Some people smoke it. Occasionally you'll find people injecting it, but that's not very often. Occasionally you'll find them ingesting it. Again, not very often. So, smokable and snorting are our most common ones. Here's our problem with cocaine. All right, we big time increase with heart attacks because the heart is racing and everything. The one thing I want you guys to understand about cocaine is also it's something called vasoconstriction, and you might be able to break down that word. Vaso stands for vascular. We're talking about our blood vessels. All right, and then we have vasoconstriction. The second part of the word, constriction. Think about a boa constrictor. The snake, it will squeeze its prey to kill it. So if we have vasoconstriction in our body, our blood vessels are tightening really tight. So what happens, somebody that is snorting cocaine, sniffing cocaine, we have tons and tons of capillaries, okay? Remember our capillaries, those are our smallest blood vessels. It doesn't take much for them. If they constrict too much, blood flow is not going to get there. Well, where do we have most of our capillaries? In our face, okay? Small areas. So somebody that is constantly taking cocaine, the tissue in and around the nose and the top of the mouth will die off because it doesn't get enough ample blood flow. Well, if it doesn't get enough ample blood flow, it cannot get enough oxygen, all right? Remember, red blood cells are going to take oxygen to all parts of our cells. Well, those cells are not going to get it. So what you're going to end up having is something called a deviated septum. Well, what's that? Oftentimes, the spot in between the nose, between the two nostrils, will collapse or it will have a hole in it, okay? So oftentimes the structure of the nose isn't so strong, and you might find one nostril pressed in and essentially sandwiched, all right? Something like that, all right, where it's constricted. Or you might find it in the roof of the mouth, and I pulled up a picture here. So this would be somebody with a hole in the roof of their mouth due to vasoconstriction. Okay? All right, surgery is going to be, it's inevitable. All right, we don't want meat or anything else to get up in there, and then you have bacterial infections. So that's a mess. All right, so that is a quick nutshell about cocaine. There will also be a worksheet I'll submit with this that gives you a little bit more information. Second one we're going to talk about that's also a stimulant is methamphetamines. Methamphetamines is something that is completely synthetic. Completely synthetic. All right, you could go up and down Dixie Highway in various stores and buy different types of ingredients and materials to form meth. Okay, it's not natural. It's not a plant that is grown in a part of a country. All right, and the biggest ingredient is called ephedrine or pseudoephedrine. You might take it in something called Sudafed. All right, now you can probably make those connections. and that is the main ingredient. Now, some people will put other types of crazy ingredients in methamphetamines, anything from lighter fluid to rat poison to the insides of a coal pack, batteries, the lithium strip, okay? So if you ever see somebody with meth mouth, okay, where their teeth are rotting out, it's because of that lithium strip that they have to put in to create and form meth. So here, let me pull up a picture of meth mouth for you, okay? That's where your teeth are rotting out, okay? Lithium strip is causing that. All right, but meth is going to give somebody a serious rush of energy, okay? Again, it's a stimulant. So somebody might be able to go for many, many hours without even having to sleep, okay? Oftentimes you might see somebody with a little bit lower weight, okay? They might lose weight because of it. You might also see a bunch of spots on somebody's skin, and people that have said that they've taken meth, it feels like bugs are crawling underneath their skin and they want to claw at their skin, so you might see some marks. So here, let me show you a quick thing of faces of meth. Here we go. All right, so there you see the lesions on that gentleman's face. Same with that poor girl. And we talked about with meth mouth that you might lose those teeth. So let me kind of give you an example of where somebody's face is sunk in. She has probably lost so many teeth where you can see how her face is kind of collapsed. All right, so that's a little bit about meth. The problem with meth is this: it is one of the most addictive drugs. Just like cocaine, in both cases, you're going to have huge spikes of dopamine when you take it. So the brain is going to naturally like that feeling. And oftentimes it's so hard to get off. All right? And with meth, you got the biggest spikes of dopamine. Even people that go to rehab, less than 1 out of 4 even can get off, even with rehab. And if somebody tries to do it by themselves, they're probably not going to be very likely. They're somewhere around 6 to 10% likelihood to be able to kick this addiction by themselves. Really hard. I'm trying to think of a couple other things I want to make sure that you guys understand about meth. So it's the most addictive. It's one of the hardest ones to get off of. It's completely synthetic, extremely combustible when you make it. All right, extremely toxic of the smell. So a lot of times you don't find it in subdivisions as much here in northern Kentucky, because if somebody's trying to cook meth, oftentimes your neighbor would smell it. So oftentimes it's made in a rural area, maybe somewhere down south, maybe in the southern part of Kentucky or Tennessee, all right, where you might find that. But that's a quick topics of meth and cocaine. I'm going to leave you guys a couple other videos. If you want to watch it, I think you'll find very, very interesting and very useful in terms of being able to understand it. And I hope you guys are having a great day. All right, take care. Bye-bye.